In the first age, in the first battle, when the shadows first lengthened, one stood. Burned by the embers of Armageddon, his soul blistered by the fires of hell, and tainted beyond ascension. He chose the path of perpetual torment. In his ravenous hatred he found no peace, and with boiling blood he scoured the umbral plains, seeking vengeance against the dark lords who had wronged him. He wore the crown of the Night Sentinels, and those that tasted the bite of his sword named him the Doomslayer.
When the Doom reboot dropped in 2016, the majority of the reception was extremely positive, with some people saying it's one of the best first-person shooters they've played in the last decade. However, I came late to the party, so when I saw that 4 years later Doom 4 was around £5 on PSN, I bought it and had more struggle putting it down than a drug addict finding cocaine. One might call it a worthy successor to Doom 1993, one of the most important relics in gaming history. In fact, it was so popular, it was estimated to be on more computers than Windows. Considering how much of an explosion both these games made, I actually expected some in-depth analysis comparing the OG Doom to the Doom reboot, and to my surprise I couldn't actually find that many, and that's probably how most of you found this video, so I guess I better stop wasting your time and get started. Welcome to an in-depth comparison of Doom 2016 and Doom 1993. Neither of the Doom games focused on their story to a degree where it was in the player's face. In fact, one of the creators of Doom 93, John Carmack, famously said, "Story in a game is like story in a porn movie. It's expected to be there, but it's not that important." Carmack's views on video game story are reflected in how most of Doom is presented through an instruction manual and text intermissions between different episodes. To my surprise, Doom 93's text intermissions in-game were actually fun to read because they had some semblance of character. Adjectives like badasses and cheesy phrases like your fat reward and ticket home had a form of charm that can make the player chuckle or at the very least smile, purely because it shows that the developers aren't taking it too seriously and are actually having fun. The team clearly wanted a strict focus on gameplay and felt as if adding a story would detract from it, but the players who wanted to know more about Doom's story could read about it more in their own time, which I wouldn't blame them as the lore is actually surprisingly quite rich. On the other hand, Doom 2016 had a slightly stronger focus on narrative, but still followed the same fundamentals in terms of presentation. It differed in terms of experiencing the narrative through actual characters that are talking to you instead of using text intermissions every so often. Sometimes you'd experience the narrative through actual gameplay where you can just walk away from a monitor, and sometimes the scenes are unskippable even though you quickly want to move to the next section. Don't worry, this only happens like twice. The narrative is the barest of bones possible. However, if you want to know more about this universe, you can find codex entries that actually contain interesting information and lore. If you're asking why this lore isn't utilized more in the main story, it's because like Doom 93, this presentation also functions to not take away attention from the gameplay. Having a bare bones story is almost like a staple for the Doom series. This game is here for a specific purpose, and that's to rip and tear through demons. Both games additionally utilize a silent protagonist. Doom 93 has a silent protagonist because they didn't want to focus on the story. However, Doom 4 used it to create moments that range from funny and charming to absolute awesome savagery.
I'm willing to take full responsibility for the horrible events of the last 24 hours, but you must understand. Our interest in their world was purely for the betterment of mankind. Everything has clearly gotten out of hand now, yes. But it was worth the risk, I assure you.
The contrast of this speech with the reality of humanity's lives being taken is pretty dark, but once you combine that with some decent comedic timing from Doom Guy silently looking at a corpse, you get a pretty funny moment there. If Doom Guy spoke in these moments, it would be too much of a comedic tension breaker, which could break the immersion that the player is experiencing in that current moment. Furthermore, the silence that Doom Guy has throughout the entire game, in conjunction with him acting mostly aggressive by his own volition.
You must stop. The hell energy is unusable without the filters.
connotes that he's unfazed by the world or anyone around him, making him seem like a completely fearless warrior as a result, which translates very well into the very gory gameplay, because instead of silence being a way of observing the world through a dull character, it's being used as a characteristic. These characteristics aren't absent in Doom 93, as in the gameplay you're also a silent protagonist shooting demons in hell. Of course you're going to feel like a badass, but that aspect of Doom guy is mostly passive in that game, because without those little story moments that Doom 4 has, those characteristics aren't emphasized to the strongest degree that they can be. And I get that you can make the argument that story isn't the only factor that can make someone feel like a force to be reckoned with in a video game, but those other factors still lean into Doom 4's favour. For example, Mick Gordon's soundtrack for Doom 4 is mostly comprised of booming, dark sounding heavy metal with elements of glitch and dark synth rock. I would say that the fast tempo in conjunction with the variety of instruments are just as loud and as frantic as the combat happening in game, which adds to the violent atmosphere, making the player feel like a complete beast. The music will also seamlessly synchronize with the player's actions in certain moments of gunplay. It's almost as if the soundtrack is responding to the actions the player commits, making them feel like they're in a complete constant state of control, further immersing the player into the game, whilst further adding to Doom Guy's badass archetype. Of course, Doom 4 has moments of musical ambience when the player is exploring the game. It does a very good job of creating an unearthly and uneasy feel to the player. For example, the dark sounding synths could make the player feel like they're in a dangerous environment that should be feared. However, since we're the Doom Slayer, that unearthly and uneasy feel simultaneously displays that we are the ones to be feared, which once again reinforces to the player that you are in a constant state of control. Doom 93's soundtrack doesn't really attempt to emulate the player's actions in the combat department, so while the music doesn't make you feel like you're in a complete constant state of control, what does it do for us? Well, for that, I'd like to introduce the internet's busiest music nerd, BagelDeliveryMan.
Thanks for having me, Joe. I hope I can explain some of Doom's music and why it, what's the words? Oh yeah, fucking bangs. Alright, let's do it. This is easily the most iconic track in the whole of the Doom OST. That constant guitar riff is filled with dissonance and crunch, and it's so muddy sounding. But the fact is that it's not even that complicated. It's just one riff being transposed up and down with a bunch of shreds on top. Pair that with some and drums, there you go. It's simple, but it's great. The track definitely lives up to its name. We have this heavy double bass synth ominously playing alongside the most stereotypical intense violins you could ever think of. And it is minor key, so it has to be sad or scary, right? Wrong, bitch. Intensity is not about key. Let me show you.
Hey guys, so I'm basically here to show you how to make intense with major key. So basically, all you gotta do is you gotta play some bass. Yeah, like that. Yeah, you gotta play some golf. Yeah. Oh, intense. And that's how you do it, guys. Thanks for watching my tutorial. See you guys next one. Bye.
Thank you, OBS Recorded Net. Now let's move on to the last track I have to talk about. The start of this song gives us a brief moment of calm, before being bombarded by fast-paced metal. The syncopation gives it an almost hook of intensity. And there's crash cymbal holds. Woo! The guitar parts are great as well. They are repetitive, but I'll tell you why. It's to represent this feeling of facing off against that big boss in a video game. You feel like you have to hit it again and again until you finally defeat it. Or they had limited space on the cartridge. Shut the fuck. Like most early video game music, it's very simple, but Doom has definitely got to give themselves a pat on the back for this one. And that just about wraps up my little section of Jez's video. Don't worry guys, this will be my channel soon. Alright, bye.
Anyway, while the music from 93 is headbanging, Bobby Prince's soundtrack for Doom 93 is a lot more playful, colourful and cartoony than Doom 2016. I guess this reflects the game's unique charm. I mean, I'm using the word unique even though these tracks were just covers of songs from the 90s. This is basically plagiarism. But at least the songs being more vibrant reinforces the saturated, vivid graphics that the game presents to the player. But unlike the music, the graphics were actually original and revolutionary to how visuals were represented in video games for the rest of time. Because if you guys didn't know, Doom was actually one of the first 3D FPS games to be ever made.
Excuse me, but don't you know that the first 3D FPS game to be ever made was Wolfenstein 3D?
No, Wolfenstein is actually a 2D game with the illusion of 3D through a little trick called raycasting, which is why all the walls are the same height and why there are no stairs or different floors. However, Doom was rendered on X, Y and Z axis, allowing for the rendition of a 3D space. This blew people's minds because there was almost nothing else that looked as good as this. It adapted from Wolfenstein 3D's visuals and turned it into something completely new. Even to this day, people still love the way this game looks, including myself. So despite these limitations that the game designers had to endure, they ironically created a new art style to the FPS genre that is technologically impressive and practically timeless. Not to say that Doom 2016 doesn't look spectacular as well. Graphically it's impressive, but it strays away from the bouncy, vibrant visuals that Doom 93 has. For example, Doom 4 for the most part takes itself more seriously than Doom 93. So to reflect that serious tone, it primarily utilizes darker colors such as red and grey and creates a more realistic barren environment. This more realistic and serious tone of a hellish landscape can make the player tense up and simultaneously make the game feel more grounded. On the other hand, a criticism that I see with Doom 4's graphical presentation is that there is very little in visual variety, so it gets boring to look at in repeat playthroughs. I don't agree with this criticism. I do appreciate that the game remains visually consistent in terms of its art style and environments to maintain its grounded, realistic and gritty aesthetic. Of course, if you do agree that the little visual variety in Doom 4 is in its detriment, that's fine. Hopefully Doom 4 can make it up to you with how distinct and interesting some of its arenas are, not in terms of visuals but in terms of how you play in them. For example, some arenas have jump pads, which are one of the most useful ways to escape enemy fire or get to another destination, due to rapidly increasing your vertical altitude. You will have pillars to trick enemies into running into walls, you will have multiple platforms you can jump to evade enemy fire or get to other enemies. The maps being so well designed allows the player to be creative with how they fight in the arena, and them being so individually distinct further increases the replay value due to having to learn the map layout. Whilst most of the game has more of a strong focus on arenas, if you explore the levels outside them, you can easily find secrets. Some secrets allow you to obtain weapons one level early, get upgrade points, and collectibles. Awesome. Of course, if you want to rip and tear through enemies, you can ignore these sections, but rewarding the player for exploring a level by granting an opportunity to become more powerful earlier on in the game is great, because it adds incentive to actually exploring the world's environments. However, I actually prefer how 93 hides its secrets compared to 2016. For example, if you notice that a wall doesn't fit a certain pattern or is slightly textured differently, if you interact with that wall, it will open and reward you with a secret. I prefer this because not only is it such a creative way of taking advantage of your art style, but also rewards the player for exploring whilst also having a keen eye. There are also ways that the game teases you into finding secrets, such as hearing a door open when you walk into a specific area. Little gaps that tease you that allow you to view accessible secrets, etc. Oh, also, you can unlock completely new secret levels if you play your cards right. In Doom 4, you can unlock some secret levels from Doom 93. The problem is they're clunky because Doom 4's mechanics don't translate well into Doom 93's levels. For example, due to the slower movement speed that you have in Doom 4, some secrets are basically inaccessible. But the secret and main levels in the actual Doom 93 are well designed for the most part. Whilst there are arenas in this game, you mostly go through the game in hallways and mazes. To progress, you're required to find color-coded keys to open up color-coded doors, whilst fighting bucket loads of enemies on the way. Combine this with how secrets are presented, and it's clear that this game has much more of an emphasis on exploration than Doom 2016. This will of course result in you getting lost a lot more. In some cases that's great because you'll often find yourself stumbling into secrets and finding new areas, but in others you'll find yourself wasting time due to how much of a mess some of these levels can be. Fortunately, you have a map to assist yourself if you need it. In Doom 4, it's a lot easier to progress. It has less of an emphasis on finding color-coded keys and labyrinths on your way, but it also utilizes subtle ways to direct the player where they're supposed to go. For example, the color green is used to show places that the player can access, making it easier for the player to navigate the world. Admittedly, this opinion that I'm about to say is more due to my subjective preference and objective analysis, but I actually did prefer getting lost in Doom 93's labyrinths, because like I said, I enjoyed finding new areas that I never would have gotten, and it really surprised me at times. And one of those reasons is because of the abundant utilization of traps. At times when you're in a claustrophobic room and you pick up a key or turn on a switch, the game will try to surprise you with enemies that come out of nowhere. In ultra violence difficulty, these sections can edge on being cheap with the amount of enemies that they throw at you, but once you play the game repeatedly, these traps become an adrenaline rush sometimes, because you know how to handle these sections. However, due to their aggressive nature, they still remain consistently difficult. Doom 4 had a few traps, but they weren't as devastating as Doom 93's, as they mostly were comprised of a few enemies. Doom 4 focused less on trying to surprise the player with traps, and more focused on trying to get the adrenaline from the player in well-designed arenas, powerful enemies, and well-placed power-ups and ammo pickups. Speaking of ammo, actually, yeah, I know that's a weak segue. Yeah, shut up. In Doom 93, the way how some levels handle ammo is not fun, to put it politely. Episode 1 gives you more ammo that you can wish for. Episode 2 gives you a fair amount. But in episode 3, you'd get more ammo going through a school kid's bag. This will result in enemies eating you alive, literally because there is not enough ammo to deal with them in certain moments, which inflates the game with arbitrary difficulty. You can circumvent this if you have the Berserk pack, which is a power-up that fills your health and amplifies your melee damage by 10 times, allowing you to save ammo for that entire level by simply hitting your enemies. So the problem is that most enemy encounters are with huge groups of enemies that can shoot projectiles at you from a range. Getting close to them and trying to punch them is an unreliable strategy because they'll be able to gang up on you easily. On the other hand, in circumstances when you're against enemies that can only hit you at a close range, using the Berserk power-up is actually a really effective strategy because you can beat them up quite quickly. In fact, Doom 93 has a lot of great power-ups. You have the Supercharge that adds 100 plus health to your character, with the total health topping at 200. You have Temporary Invincibility power-up that lasts for around 30 seconds. You have the Super Armor that adds 200 plus armor, and quote unquote invisibility. It's stupid because you're not actually invisible. It makes the enemies less accurate when hitting you. Alright, sounds cool. What's the problem? Well, Doom relies on you trying to predict where your enemy's projectiles are going to go so you can dodge them. With invisibility, you don't know where these projectiles are going, so you're more likely to be dodging into those attacks instead of away from them. so whenever I see invisibility, I just try to avoid it and deal with the enemies head on. Doom 2016, however, oh my god! You got haste, which increases your movement speed and how fast you can fire your weapons. You got quad damage, which increases your damage by a multiplication of 4. Maybe it's stolen back quick, but I really don't care. You got invincibility. You got the Revamp Berserk power-up, which increases your speed and kills enemies in one click. Oh, and you could also upgrade these power-ups. They can last longer, they can function quicker, they can give you area of effect damage. This is how a power-up should be. Oh my god. How powerful and how quick some of these power-ups last give you incentive to create as much destruction as possible, which feels absolutely amazing. The weapons that Doomguy possesses also feel impactful and satisfying. In your arsenal you possess a pump action shotgun, grenades, a hologram, a plasma rifle, a machine gun, a double barrel shotgun. I apologize. The double barrel shotgun, a chain gun, a ghost cannon, a chainsaw, and a big effing gun. That's a lot of power, right? Not enough for Doom. The game gives you 2 modifications to almost every weapon, but can further be upgraded by weapon tokens and certain actions the player commits to. This drastically changes the weapon's effectiveness and even how you play. For example, the plasma rifle has a modification that grants you a stun bomb, which can keep enemies stagnant for a temporary period of time. This allows you to get a cheap shot with other weapons such as the pump action shotgun, a weapon that has a charge shot modification allowing the player to utilize explosive rounds. This combo is extremely effective in dishing out large amounts of damage on multiple enemies with ease. Of course, that's only 2 weapons. The abundant amount of combos that one can perform effectively allows the player to be creative with how they approach each combat scenario. What's that, Doom? Okay, so Doom just told me that you have the addition of Predator suit tokens and Argent Energy. The Argent Energy gives the option to increase your health, armor, or ammo capacity, whilst the Predator suit tokens increase Doomguy's effectiveness in general in sectors such as environmental resistance, area scanning, equipment, power-up effectiveness, and dexterity. You got even more! You also have the addition of glory kills. When an enemy is near the point of death, you can get an awesome looking kill and replenish some of your health. However, if you're running out of ammo, may I suggest the chainsaw? The weapon that gives you fountains of ammo if you have enough fuel. If you have enough fuel, it also allows you to instantly demolish all normal enemy types. But they already did that at Doom Nukem Forever. Don't worry boomers, these ones are quick, greatly animated, and provide you with invincibility while doing that glory kill. This can sometimes result you in getting killed straight after, but all I gotta say is, you gotta get good. You got even more? You also have the addition of runes, which increase Doomslayer's effectiveness in a broad amount of areas when they're equipped. However, some of them are kinda ridiculous, and that kinda might be the biggest understatement of the century. For example, the Richer Get Richer rune grants you infinite ammo when you're over 100 armor, and when the rune is upgraded, it can be over 75 armor. With this, you're not encouraged to search for ammo pickups around the arena, you're not pressured to use the chainsaw to get more ammunition, and you'll use your most powerful weapon for the majority of the time to wreck house. Combine that with the fact that you have 2 other runes you could use at your disposal, an upgraded suit, and multiple weapons, and this results in the difficulty dropping. Not to the point where it's not difficult, but to the point where Doom 4 isn't as exhilarating as it possibly could be. The stupendous amount of ammo combos with your weapons allows you to be very creative, but the important part is, you're not encouraged to be creative. What's the point of constantly weapon switching, looking for ammo around the arena, and constantly using the chainsaw for ammo when you could just use 1 or 2 weapons the entire time and still manage to clear the arena just as effectively? That's why if you want to keep this game fresh after you beat it, I recommend UnderTheMayo's Brawler mode on Nightmare difficulty. It prevents the player from utilizing certain parts of their arsenal, but ironically these restrictions make the game a lot more engaging as you have to think a lot more tactically and creatively.
Brawler mode for Doom 2016 completely prohibits remote detonation for rocket launcher, the Gauss cannon, explosive shot for the shotgun, stun bomb for the plasma rifle, tactical scope for the assault rifle, hologram, siphon grenade, ammo boost rune, rich get richer rune, saving throw rune, and finally, ammo capacity upgrades.
Oh, and if you are playing on Brawler mode, don't use the super shotgun. Why? Doom 93 took a lot more simpler approach when it came to its weapons. You got the chainsaw. It has unlimited ammo, but doesn't give ammo back to the player for other weapons. It's basically a berserk power-up, but it stun locks enemies and it's a bit slower. You'll use it when you want to save ammo for your ranged weapons such as your shotgun, which you'll be using for the majority of the time. It's great at short range, decent at long range, and ammo is stupendously plentiful, making it one of the most reliable weapons in the entire game. Followed by the chain gun, which is great for taking out large groups of enemies due to it spitting loads of ammo in a very quick time frame. You'll be using this gun a lot because the ammo is very plentiful for this weapon as well. Unlike the more risky weapons like the rocket launcher, a weapon that's great for dishing large amounts of damage to bullet sponges and large groups of enemies. The problem is, you can easily blow up your face. This is the weapon you're most likely to miss with due to having to keep your distance and due to the rocket being one of the most slow moving projectiles at your disposal. After episode 1, I didn't really use it that much when I attained the plasma gun. It's great in almost every single intense scenario as it dishes out large amounts of damage very quickly. The problem is the ammo isn't really abundant, but that's fair. You shouldn't be using this thing willy-nilly. Furthermore, due to it shooting fast moving projectiles, you're more likely to miss enemies when you're at a distance, so you're better off going up close. It's basically your panic button for the majority of your playthrough before the big effing gun. Whilst less effective than Doom 2016's, it still manages to demolish every enemy around you. You'll barely use it as it uses 40 plasma cells in every shot, but if you could use it more, it'd be extremely overpowered. These weapons are well designed and very fun to use. However, when you compare this to a game like Doom 2016, it's obviously not going to allow you to be as creative due to its simplicity. Again, simplicity is part of Doom 93's charm, but unfortunately that doesn't stop the combat from feeling repetitive after a certain period of time. Don't get me wrong, this is also in conjunction with the fact that Doom 93 has a low enemy variety, with enemies that don't really have a lot of varying attacks. For example, enemies like the zombie soldiers are hit scanning enemies that do damage up close but can barely hit at a long distance. The imps are demons that can hit you with projectiles, but they can be very easily dodged by simply strafing around them. These two enemies have a low health pool, so they can usually be taken out with one shotgun shot. However, other enemies like the pinky demon have a larger health pool, usually taking around 3 shotgun shots. But the catch is, they're only melee based, so you can easily take them out with a chainsaw if you want to save ammo, or just safely shoot them from a distance. The Pinky Demon isn't that threatening, but its superior counterpart, the Spectre, uses dark environments to camouflage and get the jump on you. This may cause one to panic and use their plasma gun cells wildly, hoping to kill any Spectres that are unaware of. Sometimes I use the chainsaw, but that usually opens my back to other enemies that I can barely see. But when Spectres aren't enshrouded in darkness, they're basically another Pinky Demon. All of these enemies become threatening in very large groups, but you can still take them down quite quickly, especially when weapons as reliable as the shotgun can take out multiple enemies in one shot due to its spread. So the developers decided to add a little bit more spice and add 2 big boys into the mix, the Cacodemon and the Baron of Hell. The Cacodemon has a much higher damaging projectile than the Imp and has one of the biggest health pools in the entire game. They also have a melee attack that's really simple to dodge, but I don't think anyone will ever come in contact with that, so I'll just move on to the big boy, the Baron of Hell. 2 of them are actually a boss battle on the first episode, but in the second and third, they actually become normal enemy types. They shoot rapid, high damaging big projectiles, they have a massive health pool, and have a devastating melee attack. They can be a massive pain in a huge arena, but I love them because of how much more exhilarating they can make an enemy encounter. Oh, and the Lost Souls. I don't like these guys. No one likes these guys. They're small enemies that come in huge groups that can charge at you very quickly. They don't look like they have a big health pool, but they can take as much damage as a Pinky Demon. If they didn't take this much damage, then I wouldn't mind them at all. But that one thing makes them a lot more annoying to deal with. Ugh. Excluding the 2 bosses, Doom 93 has a total of 7 enemy types. Now 7 enemy types may seem like a decent roster, but when they don't vary their attacks that often and are sometimes put into huge groups where the enemy types are exactly the same, the game can grow very tiresome sometimes. Now what does Doom 2016 have? Oh my god, 15? The Imp is back, but it's faster and climbable balls can charge up a highly damaging fireball whilst also shooting fast Mario-sized fireballs. The Soldier is back, but completely revamped. When he shoots plasma balls, but when he gets serious, he shoots 3 big ass rapid plasma balls in succession, which can completely demolish the player. The Shield Soldier, the main with a shield and a goddamn auto shotgun. The Hellraiser, they have a high damage energy beam that they can shoot across the entire arena. The Pinky Demon is back, but can charge you like a ball and has a shield up front, but no worries, you can also hit them from the back where their weak spot is. The Spectre is back. It's basically the same as the Pinky Demon but invisible. We got the Hell Knight, the main that leaps and does aerial effect damage while relentlessly chasing you and having devastating melee attacks. The Baron of Hell is back and shoots even bigger balls with the addition of the abilities of the Hell Knight but on steroids. The Mancubus shoots flamethrowers, fireballs, causes area of effect damage if you get up close, and has a huge health pool. However, they have an exposed belly so you can bully him by shooting it. The Cyber Mancubus does a lot more damage, and instead of shooting flames, it shoots bile. Truly disgusting. The Revenant has rocket launchers and a jetpack. You got Girl Gamer, the enemy that summons other enemies, teleports around the arena, and shoots waves of energy. The Possessed Engineer, an explosive enemy, but once you kill him, he flies into other enemies, causing a huge Michael Bay explosion. These guys, they have a devastating melee attack. I know these guys are 2 different enemy types with slightly different animations, but it doesn't change the game, so I don't really count it as a new enemy type. The most annoying enemy, the Lost Souls. They charge at you, but instead of staying alive, they explode and can one-hit kill you a nightmare. That's literally the only thing that they change. These guys still suck. These enemies put together in a well-designed arena with weapons like this created one of the most exhilarating first-person shooter experiences I've ever had in my entire life. Oh my god. And then you got the boss battles. Okay. The Cyber Demon boss battle is hella engaging. You gotta watch out for those airstrikes, you gotta do some parkour over his attacks, he constantly shoots rockets at you, he constantly shoots a charged laser, and a second phase. You got the Hell Guard, which is honestly quite a disappointment. Most of his attacks are quite slow, and when he brings up this ball, if you start shooting at it, it stuns him, and this allows you to basically start abusing the fast weapon switch ability and get tons of damage on him. It has a second phase I won't spoil, but it doesn't really do that much for me. But then you got the Spider Mastermind. Oh my god, did this just want to make me break my controller a nightmare. You gotta jump and duck under her lasers, dodge her plasma balls, dodge her quick melee attacks, dodge her fountain of grenades, dodge the Maker, which is from Doom 3, and then finally, you have beaten Doom 2016. These 2 boss battles were awesome. They constantly had my attention. Their attacks were so frantic. Their designs were so awesome. How does Doom 93 top this? Well, it doesn't. The first boss battle consists of 2 Barons of Hell with a ton of specters in the arena. This literally takes 20 seconds tops if you shoot rockets at them constantly. The specters can be annoying due to the high abundance, but like I said, this battle is 20 seconds. This boss battle feels like an uneventful climax as it's not even that engaging or interesting. However, if you want to have a little fun in this arena, if you make one enemy hit the other, you can just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. That's literally the most fun thing about this boss battle, to be honest. At least the Cyber Demon's a little bit more engaging, albeit takes like 45 seconds tops. He basically shoots rockets at you at a constant rate and you have to constantly circle strafe. You could use the rocket launcher to shoot at him, but I prefer to use the plasma gun as it's a lot more reliable. This is due to it basically doing a constant stream of high damage, and I'm not risking blowing myself up from the Lost Souls getting in my face.
There's all these goddamn Lost Souls everywhere, and specifically, one of them blocks my path and boxes me in here, so instead of using the plasma gun, I have to rocket duel. Thanks, you little fucker, real nice.
These Lost Souls are the only reason why this boss battle can be difficult at times. I like to take some of them out before this boss and then proceed to strafe and win the game. But come on, what about the Spider Mastermind? She has a chain gun that can kill you in seconds, she has the biggest health pool in the entire game, she must be hard to defeat. that last boss literally took the least amount of time to defeat. Saying this boss battle is a disappointment is an understatement. Listen, I'm not expecting these boss battles to be nearly as engaging as Doom 2016's, but that doesn't disregard the fact that these boss battles are uninteresting and disappointing. If you didn't notice, I praised Doom 93 in the beginning, but near the end it got progressively worse. That's on accident, I'm not that good of a writer, but I think that's fitting considering how Doom 93 is. It starts off high and ends off low, due to the arbitrary difficulty, frustrating level design, very little enemy variety, and less than sustainable amount of ammo for a certain period of time. Doom 2016 only gets better for the majority of your playthrough. It has amazing pacing of attaining new weapons, introducing new enemies, etc. before coming to a complete standstill due to the arenas and combat not differing much in terms of gameplay at the end. However, it doesn't mean that the gameplay doesn't remain exhilarating, just not as exhilarating as it could be. If you're asking which game I think is better, it's Doom 2016. It's actually my favorite FPS shooter of all time, and whenever I'm tired or want a challenge, I attempt to marathon this game whenever I can. This is the type of game you should play if you want a gritty, creative, fast-paced game that can be exhilarating. Doom 93 is my second favorite old school shooter, only topped by its sequel. I can turn on the first episode and completely forget about all the troubles happening in the world. This is the type of game you should get if you want something simplistic, but charming and fun to explore, with the addition of getting to know the roots of first-person shooters. These two games are some of the most evolutionary first-person shooters ever made, that I think every gamer should experience at least once. So to conclude, get both of them. Doom 93 is usually 99 pence on sale and Doom 2016 is usually around £5 on sale. I don't care if you're poor, stop wasting your life and get both of these games. I'm out, boy.